I didn't start stand-up comedy because I was funny or even confident. I started because I was delusional. And honestly, that helped. 20 years later, after bombing in dive bars, killing in theaters, and surviving more fluorescent basement lights than any human should, here's the surprising truth I've learned as a professional comedian. Comedy has almost nothing to do with being funny. It's about being free. Free to show up, speak up, and trust yourself. For women, comedy becomes a radical act of confidence. It's not just about being funny, it's about being you, out loud in real time. Comedy not only helps you find your voice, it literally trains you to use it through discovery, repetition, and resilience. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to use humor, and I'm not here to recruit you into my stand-up comedy cult, although I'd be thrilled if you all left here tonight ready to do a tight 5 minutes. What I am here to do is to invite you to have your own relationship with humor and to use it how it serves you best, whether that's to heal, to connect, or simply to survive another family holiday dinner. Because after 2 decades in the funny business, here's what I know. The laughs were never the point. The point is what comedy built inside me. And that is what I want to share with you today. Now, when I say that comedy isn't really about being funny, people usually look at me like I said pizza isn't really about cheese. But here's the thing, funny is subjective. A joke that kills in New York might bomb in Nebraska. A bit that cracks up your best friend might horrify your mom. And timing matters, right? Something hysterical at midnight could just feel sad at 7 a.m. Humor is shaped by our cultures, our experiences, even our wounds, which means there is no universal formula for funny. Chasing it is like chasing a moving target blindfolded on rollerblades. But if we show up honestly, we can't lose. Because then it's not about whether or not everyone laughed. It's about whether you stood in your truth and delivered with conviction. And if you believe in what you're saying fully, and you think it's funny, someone else will too. And if they don't, they might just sit there thinking, wait, what's wrong with me that I don't get the joke? That is the power of presence. It shifts the room. So if we measure comedy only by the laughs, we miss its real gift. What happens beneath the laughter? Learning to take up space, to bounce back when things don't land, and to trust your voice even when it shakes. Now, being a woman in comedy, it's a lot like playing a video game on expert mode while everyone else is cruising on easy. It's an exercise in shrinking and expanding at the same time. Shrinking yourself to stay safe, but expanding yourself enough to be heard, and it's exhausting. Which is one of the reasons why, to me, confidence requires delusion. Now, the kids are calling it Delulu, and I'm obsessed with this concept because the courage required to step out on stage with a microphone in front of strangers and say, hello, I will now make you laugh, requires fantasy. Delusion is a superpower. To succeed in this business, you have to believe you belong, sometimes without rhyme or reason, and always before anyone else tells you that you do. Even when you have no jobs, no credits, no clue what you're doing, you have to act like you deserve to be there. It's one of the only jobs in the world where you can call yourself the thing the first time you do the thing. Any one of you could wake up tomorrow, do an open mic, and decide you're a comedian. I can't just wake up and decide that I'm a brain surgeon. I mean, not legally. Let me show you what I mean. So I once entered a roast battle on national television with really no business being there. And the only reason I survived was pure, unapologetic delusion. I got my first big break doing a roast battle on Comedy Central opposite British comedy legend Jimmy Carr. Now, if you don't know Jimmy, roasting is basically his love language. At the time, I was doing open mics, so I was still working on holding the microphone with one hand and freeing up my other hand to do gestures. But roasting had just come on the scene here in New York, and I loved it. It helped me sharpen my writing skills. And my comic friends and I, we spent so many nights in comedy club basements lovingly ripping each other apart, which might sound weird to you, but I don't judge your hobbies. So when Comedy Central called and said, "Hi, we want you to go up against one of the greatest roast comics alive," I thought it was a prank. I was at my day job. I was obviously a 30-year-old babysitter, and I genuinely thought that Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out of a bush at the playground to tell me that I had been punked. But I said yes, because in my eyes, I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The battle took place at the International Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal, one of the most prestigious comedy festivals in the world. The judges for our battle were, of course, the Roastmaster General himself, Jeff Ross, and comedians David Spade and Kevin Hart. Jimmy and I were the main event, and it felt like the entire festival was there for the taping. And I lost. Oh, how I lost. But I went down swinging. And most importantly, I had the time of my life. Even in defeat, I stood out. I let my personality shine. I was vulnerable and undeniably myself. That night helped launch my career. And it taught me something that I've carried ever since. Confidence isn't about waiting until you're ready. It's about committing fully, stepping into the fire and letting the rest catch up. People don't remember flawless. They remember fearless. Now, sure, some people are just born confident, right? Like they slid out of the womb and straight into the spotlight. And we collectively hate them. Because for most of us, confidence doesn't come pre-installed. It's earned. Right? You don't really feel ready. You learn you're ready by doing. And that is why stand-up comedy is the ultimate boot camp for confidence. It forces you to speak up, to risk failing publicly, and then to discover you can survive it. As kids, survival feels instinctual. You know, we sing and we dance and we try flips on the trampoline because we don't yet know what's dangerous or embarrassing. But adults, we forget. Fear creeps in and it whispers that we're not enough. But every time you step on stage with a microphone, Even in a basement, even with shaky legs, you remind yourself, I can do this. And slowly that practice builds into real confidence. Not perfection, not even always talent, but a genuine trust in yourself. Now, for comedians, bombing is inevitable. It is not if, it is when. And people sometimes think that bombing is the end or the cause of the end, but it's just the beginning. Bombing is the launching pad to progress. It teaches you to rewrite, to risk again, to survive the silence. And once you've done that enough times, you realize, okay, if I can survive failing in public repeatedly, there's not much I can't survive. So the year after my roast battle, I was invited back to the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. This time as a new face of comedy. Each year, about 20 comedians from all over the country are selected for this big industry showcase. It's a moment comedians dream about, and I bombed in front of thousands of people, the biggest audience I'd ever had. I delivered one of the worst sets of my career, and I could not have been more prepared. But I let the moment get bigger than me. I could feel the weight of expectation, theirs and mine, just pressing down on my shoulders. And I was no longer performing for the crowd or even for myself. I was performing against my own fears. I walked off stage convinced I'd blown the biggest opportunity of my life. That same night launched the careers of my fellow new faces, comedians like Taylor Tomlinson, Sam Jay, and Rami Youssef, just to name a few. What followed for them were talks with television executives, national tours, and major development deals. What followed for me was shame, tears, and because we were in Montreal, poutine. I'd like to say that was my only bad bomb, but I've had countless. Years later, I flew to Los Angeles and bombed a screen test and missed out on playing the television role of my dreams. I have been rejected hundreds, if not thousands of times, and yet I keep going. How? Well, I learned how to bomb like a pro. When I feel like I'm dying inside, I make it look like it's a part of the plan. You see, if you're afraid of bombing, you're thinking too small. Because the truth is, there will always be another show, another opportunity, another chance. Success is not about perfection. It's about selling what you've got with everything you've got and treating failure like proof you're in the game. I have bombed so hard and so often that it stopped scaring me. Stand-up comedy taught me to trust my instincts and honor my own voice, even when no one laughs, even when no one likes it. And trust me, with this voice, people don't. For women, this act of acceptance is transformative. It disrupts our training to self-edit, and it teaches us that our voices matter, not just when they're celebrated, but when they're uncomfortable, unpolished, or even ignored. I've seen this happen over and over in my teaching. A shy student in her early 20s who worked in finance was terrified to do her first stand-up comedy set, and it showed. She stumbled her way through it and maybe got a few polite chuckles at best. But afterwards, she told me something that changed how I teach. She said, "Christi, I felt like I was an actress playing the role of a stand-up comedian." And I thought that was so profound. Instead of leading with her genuine point of view, she performed what she thought a comedian should be. And I knew exactly what she's talking about because a couple years ago when I got married, I did the same thing. I started writing material like my husband never puts the toilet seat down, which isn't even true. He does. It is really easy to play into your trope and to perform your stereotype, to think, what would this audience want me to say? Instead of, what do I actually want to say? When my student realized that, everything shifted. She rewrote her set, changed up her material, and by the end of our next class, she wasn't just telling jokes, she was standing boldly in her truth. Stand-up comedy teaches you that your words have weight and that your voice is yours to claim. This isn't just about jokes. It's about life. It's about walking into rooms where you've been told to minimize yourself, speaking up when your ideas are questioned and trusting that you belong before the world gives you permission. When you write a joke, there's no guarantee anyone will laugh. The only thing you can rely on is your own point of view. And testing it on stage over and over trains you to trust that voice more than the silence or rejection. Confidence, resilience, and self-trust are not things you wait for. They are things you create. The world believes what you tell it. Show up, say the thing, and if it doesn't land, say the next thing. That is radical. So here's the big idea. Comedy doesn't teach us how to be funny. It teaches us how to be free. And freedom out loud in real time, that is something worth practicing. Thank you.